Hello guys, and welcome to a new video. We once again return to the fantasy land of Harman Smith, in which the console wars have ended and, in his head, Nintendo has swallowed them all up like a black hole. Now, for those of you new to this guy, he's a huge Nintendo fanboy, and he's an extreme enough one to make other hardcore Nintendo fanboys say, "Shut up, Harman." Anyways, let's just get right into it.
Well, guys, it's time to pack up that Nintendo Switch and stop playing Nintendo for all time, because Valve has outdone the Switch. They've destroyed the console. They've eclipsed Nintendo. They've beaten them at their own game. Their tablet, the Steam Deck, has demolished the Nintendo Switch in every single way possible, with its incredible lineup of exclusive games that you can only play on the platform, like the option to pirate games if you don't want to pay for them, with the ability to mod them and put porn on your console. Like, the Steam Deck is the true tablet for adults. And now, as of 2 days ago, we have confirmation that the Steam Deck from Valve, the biggest product since the iPhone, Valve's new technological wonder, we finally have a relatively concrete idea how many units it sold in the past 7 months. Valve Steam Deck has sold about 1 million units.
Harman, just because the Steam Deck is selling well doesn't mean that the Nintendo Switch is going anywhere. People are buying the Steam Deck to play their Steam games on the go, such as Elden Ring and, for me personally, Gujian 3. And there are several games that you can only play on PC that will be playable on the Steam Deck that aren't available on the Nintendo Switch. As for piracy, not everyone is going to pirate games to play on the Steam Deck, Harman. 90% of them will, but not all of them. Now, you see, Harman, that was what we call a joke. Anyway, as Gabe Newell himself said, the easiest way to stop piracy is not by putting anti-piracy technology to work. It's by giving these people a service that's better than what they're receiving from the pirates. And yeah, you can mod games on Steam Deck. You can't exactly do that on Nintendo Switch unless, of course, you're running homebrew. But that's way too risky for me, as I could wind up bricking my Switch and I have no interest in buying another one. And furthermore, Harman, what is it with your obsession with porn? I thought you said that Nintendo Switch fans went out and were getting girls with their Switches, yet I noticed that in 3 videos that I've covered on you have involved you mentioning porn in some way, or getting porn on PC or Steam Deck or whatever. You got some skeletons in your closet, Harman?
That is like tracking behind the Wii U. I think that's only just ahead of the Virtual Boy, Nintendo's worst performing console ever. Valve Steam Deck, it had a lot of hype. It had a lot of fanboys shilling for it. Even today, I have like a lot of steampunks like making reaction videos about how I'm like overreacting when it comes to like how overstating how big of a failure Valve Steam Deck is going to be. How nobody is saying that Steam Deck is going to destroy Nintendo, or that it's going to be like the biggest product since the iPhone. Like, I have legit had people like rage at me about that, saying that like that's not something that's actually being said, when it actually is. I have like the evidence for it. But
Harman, the Steam Deck hasn't even been out for a year yet, and Nintendo is a much more established brand name in the hardware market. This is the first venture like this that Valve has ever attempted, as before it was all about gaming on PC. People are hyping up the Steam Deck so that they can play their PC games on the go, like Elden Ring, so naturally people are going to be excited for something like the Steam Deck. Not only that, but it'll finally provide Nintendo with some competition, and believe it or not, that's a good thing, as it'll force Nintendo to think about the untapped potential of the Nintendo Switch. And yes, I do believe that the Nintendo Switch has untapped potential, believe it or not. Furthermore, Harman, if you have proof that people have been raging at you over this, link me to these videos, because I've never raged at you. I called you a shill through Quantum TV at the start of this video, but that's the worst I've ever called you. Anyway, it's this little thing called burden of proof, Harman, and it falls on you.
Again, this was supposed to be the big Nintendo Switch killer. This was like the big deal. This was supposed to be like this was supposed to be Valve like showing up to Nintendo's party, crashing it, and fucking like all the girls there.
Care to provide proof of what you just said there, champ? You talk a lot, but you never show proof.
This was Valve was supposed to like beat Nintendo at their own game, right? They were going to be like the next big thing and make the Nintendo Switch obsolete, right? That was what the narrative was going into this. That was the narrative well after launch. And even now, I'm sure there are a lot of fanboys like downplaying it and ignoring this and like pretending it isn't true, or that like Valve simply hasn't shipped out enough Steam Decks yet, which is laughable. Like, are you really telling me they can't ship out like 20 million Steam Decks in like a year? Like how many Switches sell in a year? Like 13? Like Steam Deck couldn't ship out more than that? They're having problems like manufacturing them? No. What's actually happening is that there is no demand. There was never any real demand. The only reason people got a Valve Steam Deck is because they're just that big of Valve drones, and they do exist. Or two, and I think this is the more relevant reason, is that like steampunks were sick of like seeing Nintendo fans like just pick up their Switch and take it like on a train with them or something.
Where has anyone said that the Valve Steam Deck was attempting to beat Nintendo at their own game, Harman, aside from you? And again, I have to ask, where is your proof that the narrative was Valve is going to beat Nintendo at their own game? And how are they downplaying it, pretending it isn't true and ignoring it? I guess you won't do it, so we'll move along. The Steam Deck doesn't ship out that many units because it requires more parts than the Nintendo Switch, and the Steam Deck does do a few things better than the Switch, such as better processing power. Furthermore, while the Switch is outselling the Steam Deck, that doesn't mean there's no demand for them, Harman. There is real demand for this thing, so much so that it actually exceeded Valve's expectations. Also, the reason people get a Steam Deck is to play their PC games on the go. I know that's probably shocking to you, Harman, but it's true.
Right? Like, it's so much more convenient than having a laptop, and there's really no way to compete with that. Like, no matter how much they like try to cry and whine otherwise, like, oh, I don't go outside. I would never use the handheld mode. Like, it's still a very appealing feature for a lot of people, and a big reason why the Switch does so well. But like the Valve Steam Deck was supposed to be this thing that was supposed to like bridge the gap. So forget the fact that you already own like a $2,000 PC. Add in like an $800 tablet on top of that with like, you know, maxed out memory with all this shit. It could run all the AAA games that Switch can't, man. But like, you're really gonna spend that kind of money for games you can play already? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, Arlo kind of pointed this out when he did that like Elden Ring is better than Zelda video, where he acknowledged the fact that it was ridiculous that he bought like Elden Ring on both Steam and PS4 so he could like use it on his Steam Deck. He was shilling the Steam Deck in that video, right? Like, it really does feel like the only people who seriously acted like the Steam Deck could reasonably compete were YouTubers. And I was saying this from the beginning. It wasn't going to work out. It wasn't the price point isn't competitive. The library isn't there. The audience isn't there, right? There is no interest in this piece of technology.
Harman, what did the Steam Deck do to you, man? Okay, look, there was a lot to unpack there, especially towards the end. But Harman, did the Steam Deck strap the Nintendo Switch down and do terrible and unspeakable things to it? First of all, the Steam Deck is not trying to compete with the Nintendo Switch at all. Valve wanted a way for Steam users to be able to play their games on the go, and Nintendo laid out a perfect blueprint in the Nintendo Switch. Valve is taking that concept and making their own system with it, because not all PC gamers want to stay stuffed up in their room all day playing video games. Furthermore, there are idiots like me who have a PC that, although fairly powerful, it can't play every game out there without some minor hiccups here and there. Also, the Switch isn't as powerful as you like to think it is, Harman. It's strong, yes, but the Steam Deck is stronger due to the more powerful hardware in the system, and to top it all off, I couldn't find that video of Arlo talking about the Steam Deck, so we'll just skip past that. What I won't skip past are Harman's other talking points. The price point for the Steam Deck may be a lot higher than what it is for the Nintendo Switch, but it's worth it when it actually has processing power, better than the Nintendo Switch's. Parts that are stronger than the Nintendo Switch, and there are more of them, means that the Steam Deck is going to cost more, but when you consider what you're paying for, it starts looking reasonable and competitive. Also, the library is there. It's just that most games were out on Steam before the Steam Deck was even conceptualized. They are working on getting those games to work on the Steam Deck, it's just that it's going to take a while. And the audience is there, Harman. You just can't see it because you are blinded by your fanboyism that you worship the ground Nintendo walks on like it's the second coming of Christ. And yes, there is interest in this piece of technology. Otherwise, it wouldn't have sold over 1 million units now, would it?
But no, everyone just kind of plugged their ears and just kind of ignored me or tried making fun of me or tried calling me a fanboy. Well, who's laughing now?
Me, because you were so frightened of the Steam Deck doing well and utterly demolishing the Nintendo Switch. Harman, look, I'm a huge Nintendo fan myself. If you were to see my room, you would know this, but I promise you, just because people are buying the Steam Decks doesn't mean that Nintendo Switch is going anywhere. You're so paranoid that you're projecting. Chill out, dude.
1 million units sold. Selling worse than the Wii U. Okay? That's how bad it is. Selling worse than the Vita. Like, even the Vita is, like, raping this thing's soul. Like, I don't know exactly why people were so adamant that this thing was going to be a success, because it so obviously wasn't. Like, this is going to be, I think, another example of a long line of examples of just how many failures Valve has in their lineup when it comes to, like, their technology, right? The VR thing failed, like the Steam Box failed, the Steam controller failed. This is just another long line in that long string of failures. Like, it needs to be understood among the gaming community is that, like, Valve cannot compete in the hardware space. They can't produce tech. They can't make it appealing. They can't sell it to normies. Like, the issue is they have to compete with all these more viable companies that are way more well established than they. Like, how many PC gamers do you know who actually use a Valve-produced controller for their Steam games, right?
Since Harman apparently doesn't understand that the Steam Deck hasn't even been out for an entire year at this point, maybe we should explain to him that that's a good number to hit for sales? Furthermore, the Wii U was a failure, commercially speaking, and it sold over 13.5 million units and cost Nintendo a lot of the goodwill that they had built up with their fans with the previous console, the Wii. The Vita was also a failure, and there were multiple reasons for that, which I won't specify here, except that Sony didn't seem to care about it at all due to mobile gaming. Look, the point is that the Steam Deck actually has potential. Yes, there are still some kinks that need to be ironed out, and I'm sure they will be in time. Also, Harman, yes, Valve has had a few screw-ups in the past when it comes to hardware, but you want to know another company that has struggled with hardware recently? That's right, it's Nintendo! Remember Joy-Con drift? Yeah, because that was definitely a thing that's plagued most Nintendo Switch users at some point. Even worse than that, Nintendo said that it wasn't even a thing despite the ungodly evidence brought forward, proving that it was and possibly still is a problem. Stop kissing Nintendo's ass and pretending like they can do no wrong, Harman.
Nobody uses the Valve one. Valve cannot produce hardware peripherals for even their own storefront. They are reliant on third-party developers.
Apart from my brother, most people would disagree with you on this one, Harman. As for being reliant on third-party support, Nintendo is reliant as anybody else on third-party support. It's one of the reasons why the Wii U failed so epically, is due to a lack of third-party support. Do some research, Harman. It's not that hard.
Like, the only reason Valve is relevant, the only reason anyone cares about them, is that they have a monopoly on PC gaming. Now, I've heard a lot of steampunks, like, deny this fact. Like, they'll try to tell you that, like, oh, man, like, no, I pirate all my games. Like, there's good old games. There's, there are alternate storefronts. Nobody uses them.
If nobody uses them, then why have they remained up and running for the past several years, Harman? Also, not everyone who is a PC gamer pirates the games that they play. Also, Harman, sounds like you're getting a little hot under the collar. Has the Steam Deck success been getting to you lately?
Like, unless you're getting, like, the free games from the Epic Game Store, which I think is, like, a very, very, very small minority of people, to be honest with you, considering how often games go for, like, $5 on Steam itself. I don't see any of these platforms being relevant, like viable, because nobody talks about them. Like, I think when the Cyberpunk 2077 came out, Good Old Games, which is owned by CD Projekt Red, I think their stock dropped. I think people stopped trusting them after that.
Harman, free games are free, and the best things in life are free, which is why the Epic Game Store puts out free games from time to time. They also do it to attract some new blood. Furthermore, not very many games on sale on Steam are going for $5. I know he was being rhetorical here, or at least I hope he was, but still, man. As for CD Projekt Red's stock falling after releasing Cyberpunk 2077, he is right on that. but that was because of just how buggy the game was at launch, and they also lied about a feature being in the base game at launch. It's what would happen to any other game company out there that released a buggy game at launch. Well, except for Bethesda Softworks, of course, but that's to be expected from our good old Todd Howard.
CD Projekt Red is, of course, always releasing their games on Steam because they know that people are not going to go to Good Old Games to buy like their exclusive AAA products. They have to release on Steam, the only viable PC gaming storefront, right?
Then why on God's green earth are the games also available to purchase on Good Old Games, Harman, you brain-dead imbecile? I have a cousin who prefers PC games to be on Steam, but he uses the Epic Games Store as well. I have several games on Steam, as well as the Epic Games Store, and I still prefer Good Old Games to Steam. Harman, you can't just lump everyone together, you idiot. Besides, they put their games on these other platforms to attract some potential buyers who may not like Good Old Games or the Epic Games Store. It may not make sense to you, Harman, but I promise you, those are the most likely reasons to put their games on another PC gaming storefront.
So, in a sense, I think... I've gone on record about this. I'll probably make another video about this in the future.
Why? So you can make yourself look even more stupid than you already have in this video?
It feels like the console war is over. Nintendo has essentially won. They've shut out all the competition.
No, it isn't, and no, Nintendo has not won. If Nintendo truly wants to win the console wars, then they have a lot of work to do, and trying to preserve their games and treat their customers a whole lot better is a great place to start. And I say that as a huge Nintendo fan myself.
Companies that try to intrude on their space, like huge ones like Valve, Amazon, and Google, have like pretty consistently failed to introduce new hardware that could compete with Nintendo. Sony and Microsoft are out. It's only a matter of time, I think, until like the hardware division is kind of phased out. I think people are only kind of latching onto them because of brand loyalty at this point. But it's coming. It's coming. Nintendo has essentially won the console war. Well deserved, in my opinion. I've been waiting for this to happen since, honestly, probably before I was even born.
Dear God, listen to this man. His salt levels are over 9,000. They are off the charts. Holy Christ on the cross, dude. Okay, first of all, if Valve, Amazon, and Google have always failed by intruding on Nintendo's space, then why is Valve currently working on a handheld PC that has already sold over 1 million units? Now, I haven't kept up with Amazon stuff, and Google's Stadia failure was because they never really cared about it. As for Sony and Microsoft being out, what on God's green earth is this guy babbling about? Has the salt really messed up his brain that much? Also, for brand loyalty, Harman needs to go look in a mirror because he clearly doesn't understand what brand loyalty is. He's constantly shilling for Nintendo, and he has the gall to say that Sony and Microsoft still exist because of brand loyalty? Hypocrisy much, Harman. And again, no, Nintendo has not won the console wars. Only when all three game companies have set aside their differences and become one or bought out by EA or Disney will the console war be over. I still haven't decided on who will buy out Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft in my headcanon for that yet, but rest assured, I will find out who and insert them into my retarded fanfiction on the console wars. One last thing, Harman. You haven't been waiting on this since before you were born. You didn't exist yet. No Nintendo was a thing yet. And yes, I know he's being rhetorical, but I am just that petty.
Like this is like a big monumentous occasion for me. I'm happy that it's finally happened. Like I'm happy that like in the future kids won't be bullied for playing on Nintendo consoles.
Is that why you're so salty about other gaming consoles that aren't Nintendo, Harman? You got bullied in school for playing Nintendo, perhaps? Because it sure sounds like it. Or maybe you got bullied because you kissed Nintendo's rump just a little too much. Because there is such a thing as extremism, Harman. Think about that.
But like my point is, like now that the console war is over.
Where is your proof that the console war is over? You keep saying it as though it's fact, but I don't see any evidence on your end, Harman.
It's the industry has shifted. So like you have the console, the only console on the market, Nintendo, competing with the only PC storefront, Valve, and they're competing with like phones and like other means of entertainment. I think phones are probably the big one there, but I think like eventually TVs might start being able to streaming games. I expect that's what's going to happen with Xbox Game Pass, is that it's just going to be like a standard service you can get through like any TV. There'll be like minor, small other services that are competing, but it's going to be those three, I think. Like the services transition, the console war has evolved to the next stage where like you have dedicated gaming platforms, you have PCs that can do a whole bunch of other things, and you have mobile. And I think most people are going to have all three.
Nintendo and Valve aren't platforms, Harman. They are the manufacturers or creators of the Switch and the Steam Deck, respectively. Also, Valve isn't the storefront either. They are the creators and managers of Steam, which is the storefront, Harman. Sony and Microsoft aren't out of the game just yet, no pun intended, and right now, their consoles are selling very well last time I checked. Another thing to consider is that phones literally cannot compete with gaming consoles. They'll be beaten out every single time, and most people out there, like 99% of people, get phones to be used as phones, Harman. Also, Xbox Game Pass is exclusive to Xbox, Harman, as it is for Xbox stuff exclusively. Hence the reason it's called Xbox Game Pass and not just Game Pass. One last thing on this point is that everyone already has all three of those things, Harman. Good lord, do you ever stop to think, my man?
Like most people who like really like games are going to be able to like play mobile, play PC, or play Nintendo. Like I don't even like mobile or PC, but I do own both, right? Like I do have a phone, I do have a gaming PC, I do have a Switch, right? I think going forward that's going to be like the way things are structured. And honestly, it's the way things should be. Like each thing has its place, each thing has its utility, each thing has its functionality. There is no reason really to have a conflict between like consoles and PC, between Nintendo and Valve. Right. And I think like most people kind of feel that way because people have been like stating people have been like big on like the PC and Switch master race since the generation started. But yeah, I do think all three platforms should coexist.
Yeah, Harman, most people who like video games are going to be able to play mobile or PC, but why just Nintendo? Are you so delusional that you forgot that Microsoft and Sony are still relevant, my guy? I love how you say you have a gaming PC and a phone, and yet all throughout this video you have been crapping all over anything that isn't made by Nintendo. Just like Quantum TV and Darkside Phil, Harman here really needs to start writing down his opinions because he has trouble keeping up with them, it would seem. As for the Switch and PC masquerade, that's because the Switch has several exclusive games on it that the other consoles and PCs don't have, and there are several games on PC that the Switch doesn't have. Sony and Microsoft share their games with the PC market, something that Nintendo don't. Also, Harman, the Steam Deck isn't a platform and neither is mobile, at least not to me. I only consider Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft to be the ones who own the three platforms, and those are, at current, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation.
I don't want to harass PC gamers over their like preference of consoles. To be honest, I kind of expect that like going forward, there will be times where I will need to play a game on PC. Slitterhead, I don't think is coming out on console, and I'm so excited for that. I will probably check it out on Steam like day one. I like that. Like Tekken 8, yeah, I probably will get it on PC. I love Tekken on PC. I might try like older games, like Dead or Alive 5. I've been thinking about checking out.
If you don't want to harass PC gamers, then why have you been doing so over the Steam Deck throughout this video, Harman, at least at the beginning? You've also been complaining about the Steam Deck for at least 2 videos that I've covered on you now, and yes, there are more than just these, but why does it bother you that now you'll be able to play PC games on the go?
There are a lot of things I'm excited for in the future. And like considering I don't have like the raging, seething hatred of Valve that I do with PlayStation and Xbox, I think that like I can viably honestly not feel guilty about like giving them money occasionally for a game that I'm really excited for,
Well, I guess I don't have to feel guilty whenever I pay for a game on a Nintendo console either then.
I legit felt these companies were ruining video games. But in Valve's case, I'm sure they're not a very well run company. They have issues. I'm sure that they're pushing diversity and shit like that. Like there are things about Valve I don't like, but like I don't hate them the way I hate Sony and PlayStation. Now that Sony and Xbox, I think that might change like in the future, like as I start utilizing Steam and start like using it more and stuff like that. But at the moment, I'm happy, like, at the way things are arranged, right? Like, I like everything I'm using. I like the services. I like the way that things are, right? But I had no interest in picking up a Steam Deck. And I did not appreciate the fact that I was vilified for pointing out that fact.
The only company that I've personally seen ruining video games is EA, and it's not hard to see how at all. Also, I like how he said that he doesn't hate Valve the same way he hates Sony and Microsoft. Also, the reason you were, or rather are, being vilified is because you made a stupid take and you intend to die on that hill defending your opinion.
You know, I think I even said that, like, I don't have anything against Valve, like, when the Steam Deck was announced. But, like, people treat you condemning Valve for putting out, like, a poorly conceived piece of hardware as being, like, an attack on their favorite brand, all right? Like, or I think more accurately, they didn't like it, the fact that I was shitting on them for shitting on Nintendo, which I think this was all really about, was just an attempt by the steampunks to come after Nintendo, and it didn't work.
Clearly it worked on you, Harman. It may not have ruffled Nintendo's feathers, but it's a shame that we can't say the same for you, Harman. And no one, not the fans of the Steam Deck, not the fans of Valve, neither of those came after you. You just jumped to the conclusion that Valve is trying to conquer Nintendo. They aren't. Nintendo isn't going anywhere, so stop being paranoid, my guy.
Yeah, I hope in the future that we can all get along and that we don't necessarily need this pointless drama. All right, like Valve just needs to stop putting out new hardware and just let Nintendo do their thing.
Jesus Christ on the cross! Look at the balls on this guy! Valve just needs to stop making hardware and let Nintendo do their thing. Who on God's green earth do you think you are, Harman? Telling a company what they should and shouldn't do. How's about you become the CEO or president or whatever of Valve's before you start barking orders at them, buddy? Oh man, folks, I'm gonna tell you now, this video was painful to make, so please subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because this was a nightmare to get through. Anyways, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye for now.